supporting special educational needs in early years. Recent research reveals that there has been a dramatic increase in the number of children with special educational needs at nursery. So it's essential that we as early years providers are aware of our responsibilities so that we can fully support the children in our care. In this video, we'll go over some strategies that you can use to support the children in your care, how and when to make a referral, and some other important information with regards to SEN, like what is an EHC plan. But before we get started, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel, Open Nursery with myself, Kurt Lianya, where I support you to open, run and grow your own childcare business. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe. I post regular videos all to support you in your childcare knowledge and your childcare growth. Today we're going to be going over how we can better support our special educational needs children in our setting, which is commonly known as SEN or SEND. But first, what is SEN? SEN or SEND is described in the SEND Code of Practice 2015 as a child or young person has SEND if they have a learning difficulty which calls for special educational provision to be made for him or her. A child at compulsory school age or young person has a learning difficulty or disability if he or she has a significantly greater difficulty in learning than the majority of others of their age group, or has a disability that either prevents or hinders them from making use of the facilities of the kind that are generally provided for others of the same age group. Our role as early years providers and nursery practitioners is set out in the EYFS statutory framework. The Early Years Foundation Stage Statutory Framework, or EYFS Statutory Framework, require early years providers to have arrangements in place to support children with SEN or disabilities, and to provide information to parents regarding this. Settings must promote equality of opportunity for the children in their care, and all providers that are funded by the local authority to deliver early education must have regards to the Special Educational Needs Code of Practice. The EYFS also states that nurseries must identify a member of staff to act as a Special Educational Needs Coordinator, or SENCO for short, and other providers in group provisions are expected to do so too. All those who work with young children should be alert to emerging difficulties and respond early. In particular, parents will know their children best, and it is important that all practitioners listen and understand when parents express concerns about their child's development. We should also be listening to and addressing concerns that children may raise themselves. The SEN Code of Practice builds on the EYFS statutory framework and sets out that all providers must have arrangements in place to support children with SEN or disabilities, a clear policy for identifying and responding to the needs of children with SEN, with early identification identified as a priority. If you need a good SEN policy, then check out the link in the description where you can get one. Maintained nursery schools must also ensure that children with SEN get the support that they need, ensure that children with SEN engage in activities alongside children that do not have SEN. They must also, as I mentioned, designate a member of staff to be responsible for coordinating SEN provision, whereby they'll be known as the SENCO, and they must inform parents when they're making special educational provision for a child. They must also prepare a report on the implementation of their SEN policy, their arrangements for the admission of disabled children, the steps being taken to prevent disabled children from being treated less favourably than others, the facilities provided to enable access to the setting for disabled children, and their accessibility plan, showing how they intend to improve access over time. Early years providers must work closely with parents and provide information on how they support children with SEN and disabilities, regularly reviewing and evaluating the quality and breadth of the support they offer or can access. Providers must also work in partnership with the local authority and other services or specialists where required. All early years providers must also meet the requirements in the Equality Act 2020. They do this by promoting equal opportunity for disabled children, providing inclusive practice, and making reasonable adjustments, including aids, to prevent any disadvantage to children. So how do we identify and assess needs? Recognizing SEND in early years is pivotal, as these are the years where children are more impressionable and start to develop. This is why SEND is such an important topic to be knowledgeable as an early years practitioner. As someone who works with children, you should be alert and aware to some of the difficulties that some children face in relation to SEND. In doing so, you can respond to concerns early to assist in the support of children with SEND. Early identification and action are seen as critical to a child's future progress and outcomes. There are 2 formal progress checks that practitioners should be undertaking to see how children are developing and help us to identify where a child may potentially have SEN. They are the 2-year progress check and the assessment at the end of the EYFS. The earliest practitioners should monitor and review the progress and development of all children throughout the early years. There should be an ongoing assessment of children's development, and providers should not be waiting until these formal progress checks to identify concerns. When assessing children to help identify SEN, there are 4 main areas that you should be looking out for that will give a rise to a concern. These are delays in their communications and their interactions, delays in cognition and learning, social, emotional and mental health concerns, and sensory and/or physical needs. It's important to remember that children may have specific needs that cover more than one of these areas, or needs that may change over time. A delay in learning and development in the early years does not necessarily mean that a child has SEN. However, if you or parents have concerns, there should be an assessment to determine whether there are factors such as an underlying learning or communication difficulty. What is our general approach to supporting needs? Well, these assessments form the first part of a 4-stage approach to supporting children with SEN, as set out in the SEN Code of Practice. These 4 stages are, as we mentioned, we assess the children's development and needs. We make sure that we include the parents and the child in this process where their age and stage of development is appropriate, and we think about whether we need to seek more specialist help from a health perspective, social service perspective, or any other agencies. After we assess, we begin planning. All the people involved, the parents, child, you yourselves, your nursery, local authority, or any outside help you've got, begin to write down and agree what strategies, interventions, and support are required. For example, it could just be that you, your staff, parents, or those involved need extra support, information, or training in this area. But an important thing to include in your plan is to include a review date, where you can review how the plan's going and assess any progress that's been made. The 3rd step is to do. Implement the plan. So if to go on training, go on that training, and then observe the child's response to the action that's been taken. And then you review. Review the effectiveness of the support and what impact, if any, has there been on the child's progress. Reviews should include the key person, the SENCO, parent, and the views of the child, and should include any agreed changes to the support that is offered. This support needs to be a regular cycle, identifying the most appropriate ways of ensuring that the child is making good progress, which may include seeking further specialist help if required. Strategies for helping children with SEN in early years. Having strategies in place is an important part in supporting children with SEN. Some things you can do to support your children is to keep your knowledge up to date, be aware of the different types of SEN, and know how to best support your children based on the best advice and evidence. Secondly, develop a high quality universal provision. This is essential for children with SEN, but also hugely benefits all children. This covers the learning environment, high quality teaching, and interactions, questioning, planning, differentiation, and personalised learning. Developing a high quality universal provision reduces the need for future targeted interventions. Thirdly, you want to focus on a fully inclusive practice. A learning environment which makes changes and modifications will help to reduce the barriers to learning. Every child will need different types and levels of support in order to achieve their full potential. You need to ensure that children with SEN are included with children that do not have SEN. You want to improve interactions with the child. Allowing children to take the lead ensures that they feel their efforts are valued and important. Show them that you will always respond, even if they're not saying any words that you may understand. You can use descriptive commentary, providing a gentle running commentary of what the child is doing and what is happening in the situation. You need to make sure that you're responding to concerns. So if you have concerns, look at the child's development in more detail and compare this with typical development of children their age and stage. And finally, it's important that we develop effective and supportive partnership with parents. Communicate regularly, involve them in decisions about support, and signpost parents to further support. Moving on to requesting further support. Hopefully, after implementing all this support, we should start to see progress in our children. But what if we don't, or we don't see any significant progress? This is where your setting will look for outside support. Where a child continues to make less progress than expected, despite evidence-based support and interventions that are matched to the child's area of need, you should then start thinking about involving appropriate specialists. These might be health visitors, educational psychologists, or speech and language therapists. These are people more trained and may be able to identify more effective strategies, equipment, or interventions to enable the child to make more progress towards their learning and development outcomes. They may also help us to adjust our targets so that it's more realistic and achievable for the child. The decision to involve specialists should always be taken in partnership with the child's parents or guardian. Where a child has not made the expected progress, despite the provision taking appropriate action to identify, assess, and meet the special educational needs of the child, you should then consider requesting an EHC needs assessment. An EHC plan, or Education, Health and Care Plan, identifies educational, health and social needs and sets out the additional support to meet those needs, which includes specialised outcomes for the child. The local authority will decide whether an EHC assessment is necessary, following a consultation with the child's parents, and will give the decision within 6 weeks of receiving the request. There will always be support that the local authority will be able to give you and your setting, and you can find this out by looking at your local authority's local offer. The local offer provides clear, detailed, accessible and up-to-date information about what is available and how it can be accessed, which includes eligibility criteria. It allows local authorities to respond to local needs and helps them to identify where there are gaps in what's being provided by directly involving children and young people with SEND and their parents or carers. On the local offer, you can access information on SEN, learning support and sensory support services, area SENCOs, specialists and therapists, as well as information on at-home support available for families. You can also find out about local strategic arrangements, including arrangements for assessing and identifying children's needs in early years, arrangements for providing top-up funding for children with high needs, as well as arrangements for EHC needs, assessments and plans. Using this approach, we should be able to give the children in our care the support that they need. So some key takeaways that you should know are that you should make sure that information is provided to parents about how children with SEN and disabilities are supported. Ensure staff receive regular training on their duties under the SEND framework. Place children and parents at the centre of any SEND provision and decision making. Regularly review and evaluate the support that is on offer, as well as review any policy procedures with regards to SEND. Work together with other services to secure the support and interventions that will help the child to achieve the best outcomes. Ensure that all approaches and interventions are evidence-based and focus on the outcomes for the children rather than the processes. Work in partnership with the local authority on the local offer and, where necessary, on EHC assessments and plans. And finally, support effective transitional planning and arrangements for children with SEN. That is how we can better support children with special educational needs or disabilities in early years. I hope you found this video useful, and I hope it will be beneficial in helping you to support the children in your setting. If you have found it useful, make sure you hit that like button. And if you have any further questions on this topic, then feel free to drop a message in the comment section. On the screen now is another video that YouTube thinks you will find useful, so head over there to learn more. I'll see you on the next one. God bless.